Facts, bro. Facts.
I love how, I don't know if this is just a coincidence, but like you give a pastor like one little question. And they just go off.
Yes, bro.
Well, welcome to the Soul Tapes podcast. My name is Adam Cruz.
My name is Antonio Reyes.
And we have a very special guest.
We have with us the legend.
I want to introduce you because we want to do it justice.
Yes.
But I think we're excited today to have Pastor Jefte.
Bishop Jefte.
I want to see him try it.
I want to hear it.
The only thing I can remember is Villalta, but I know that's
close.
I know that's Villalta.
Yes.
I was thinking of the grocery store. That's why.
Yeah. But, hey, you know what? I don't blame you because growing up with a lot of Puerto Ricans, they would always call us Villalta. With the R.
Interesting.
So, so you're not with
that
off.
Yep.
You said Villalta like at the store, which I wish that was us, but
hey, it's all good.
Make that money,
it's
bro.
all good.
Yeah.
But
hey, man, we're excited to be with us, honestly.
Bro.
Yes.
And we love you. And honestly, I know that I know in the Enneagram you're number 5, so that means that you're a Google. You know, you just have like information.
A living
That's
Google.
I got like a little iPad here.
You have it right there. You're just
I'm
gonna go at it. So, anyways, I feel like anything that I throw you, you just have something to say about that.
Whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a
so
skill.
pastoral, but yeah, that's true.
That's a gift.
That's true, bro. That's true.
Yeah, man.
Well, I think, one thing we kind of talked about different topics that we could discuss today, but I think, you have a pretty incredible testimony, story, life, I mean, just in general. And I thought it'd be good if you can just like share a little bit about your journey. You've come a long way. You've been through a lot. I think from the time that we've known each other, like you just have this ability to instill wisdom. I think it'd be cool for people just to hear a little bit more about your story, and then we can just go from there. I'm sure we're gonna pull nuggets and all of that. So
check this out. For me, it's every season you learn, right?
Yep.
And so this season, one of the things that I've been learning is, and I'll go back to 1983 in a little bit.
Hey.
But
80s baby.
Yeah, 80s baby. Right? In 1983, which actually the Raiders won the Super Bowl in that year. Just letting you know.
Okay.
It wasn't the last time though, but just it was one of the 3 times. We'll talk about it later. But Pastor Josh, which you guys just had here, he said something he said a month ago, and then he repeated it to me a couple of weeks ago, and I felt like he repeated it for a reason. You know, when God says, I'm gonna tell you something one more time, because you didn't get it. And he said what you focus on, or what you repeat, or what you keep on pointing to, you become. And so for me, it's been, so right now it's gonna be a little bit of, I'm gonna navigate this with you guys because it's been a little bit of a struggle for me to share my testimony without it being something that keeps on defining me.
That's
right?
good, bro.
And that's a struggle. So I'm still trying to figure that out.
I think all of us,
Like what parts of it, I'm gonna tell you this. I went to therapy, right? I went to therapy. And my therapist said, hey, we're talking about relationships. They're like, hey, when you get into, I'm gonna go back to 1983 in a little bit. But my therapist said, hey, when people get into relationships, they don't share because they're afraid or whatever. And I was thinking, no, but I usually always share my story. When I meet someone, I'll share my story. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm not that person. I guess I'm healthy because I share my story all the time. And she goes, oh, you're one of those.
Oh.
And I was like,
oh, snap.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Check that. Look what they said. They said, it was he. I said she, but it was he. He said, oh, you share? Kind of telling the person, look, all I've been through. Don't hurt me. So the person that doesn't share because they're afraid of being hurt. Yeah. Well, you overshare so that they won't hurt you if they already know what you've been through.
Bro, that's
good.
And
that's
it sucks because then, like everything else, the balance is in the middle, right?
Yeah.
It's like trying to find that place.
Yeah.
So going back to 1983, the day I was born. Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you why that's important.
Yeah.
Because I was born December 24th, 1983, which meant that God not only took my life, he also took my birthday, right? I don't get to have no birthdays December 24th because everyone's at church.
Yeah.
So that's the first trauma part.
I don't know if that's it's funny because Vanessa's birthday's October 31st. Okay. So I'm like, people usually equate that to, not good things. So
hold on. So that would be that's a trip. So like if me and Vanessa are in a room, it's like December 24th, the most holiest day in the calendar, and then
31st when the demons come out. Hey, bro. But you know what? The cool thing is God redeemed that because, you know, churches, we always do like harvest events and stuff. So she always spent her birthdays at church.
Okay, can I trip you out a little bit more?
Yeah.
So October 31st, 1517 was the day that Martin Luther put those 95 Theses.
Reaffirm.
Yeah.
What is it?
So it's the day of the Reform. So look, she was born like on a
historic day. There you go.
You know, Christian day. But I was born in 1983. I was born to a pastor. Yeah. You know, my mom and dad, they were pastoring. And my grandfather had started 160 churches before he died. So I come from like a really strong Christian family. Yeah. Well, entre comillas, right? Like quotes, like strong. And my mom, since the day I can remember, my mom like wanted me to become a preacher or a pastor. I was the firstborn. Hey, you know, like my mom just like 7 years old, first sermon, wrote everything out, whatever it may be. This is a thing that kind of like was messed up. They didn't do it on purpose, but they set me so much to have success. Yeah. They like taught me everything about success. They never spoke to me about failure.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And so like if you know so I felt like I could go into like a mega church and be successful because I know how to be successful in a successful place. Yeah. It's when they place me in a place where it's not successful, where it's hard, or it's difficult. You know, they place you in a city like LA where like there's churches in every corner. And you're competing, quote unquote, with other people and other stuff. So I had a nice childhood, you know, all this nice stuff that happened to me. I did leave church, and I'll leave that for another day because I feel like that part of my story, even for me, it's hard to believe. Like 1996 till about 1999. Which were like for me my trouble years. I got kicked out of 8 junior highs. I got kicked out of 5 high schools. I was arrested for tagging. That was my thing. I was a tagger. I don't know if I was good, but that's what I was. I came back to God, you know, to the place of church of my parents. I was, if they had a Christian yearbook, I would have been the most likely to have a wonderful marriage. You know, if there was a Christian yearbook, I would be the most likely to have a successful ministry. Because that's what they put in my heart and my mind. So when I get married and I find this pastor's daughter and all that kind of stuff, and I mean she sang, which is perfect for a preacher. She was a pastor's daughter, which was perfect for a preacher. She liked hymns, which is perfect for an old-fashioned preacher. So she had all these good things that like kind of complemented the things I was looking for. Fast forward a couple of years, we have 4 miscarriages. First ones were twins. Lose all those babies. It messed up with her faith, and at some point it ended up creeping into our marriage. And one day I'm a pastor of a church with a lot of potential, and the next day I'm divorced. And divorced with a little boy of 1 year and 2 months old who we just had adopted 3 months before my wife bounced. You know. And so that for me, from that day all the way up to 1983, everything is like kind of a blur. It kind of seems like all my life now has been focused on what happened after that. And so, and it's crazy because when people kind of don't know your story, they could piggyback off of a lot of stuff that you sit down and you think, oh yeah, that did happen to me, but I don't know why it doesn't have the same value that it had fast for other people. And I think that failure has a way of just shifting your perspective on any story, yours or somebody else's. You know. And so like I feel like from that point to what was it, 2013, December 2013, which was when everything went kind of down. I like all that got packed up a little bit, and I feel like my life changed so much after that. At that moment, being a single dad of a quote unquote kind of sort of, not really, but Pentecostal church in South Central. With the kind of family story that I had, like I didn't see how I was gonna make it, bro. Like honestly, I didn't.
Let me stop you. Sorry.
No. There's a lot.
Go for it. Well, I was gonna say, because you brought up, there's something that you're kind of bringing up as far as this. You grew up with this. You were taught this idea, or like that you were gonna be like success was not even an option; it was like inevitable. And then you get married, you get in, you know, you're starting your ministry with your church, and now you just said you got to this point where you felt like success was almost impossible. So like, just like unpacking that, like what when you got to that moment, like looking back at what you were raised with versus what was the reality of of that, 2013 or whatever that time frame was, like, because I feel like a lot of people, we get into those seasons where we have this idea of what our future is going to look like, and then we get to the reality of it, and it doesn't look like exactly. And some people, I think we have people that listen that aren't maybe believers or Christians, so they just but they share the same exact experiences, right? So, just like continuing to unpack that, like, what was that moment for you when you had that realization of like, dang, like I'm here now in a season where success, what I used to think was just going to be an inevitable part of my story, now I feel like it's almost like you're like almost at a point where you feel like I don't even know if I'm ever going to experience it. Like unpacking that moment, can you unpack that a little bit?
All right, I'll give you a little example because
because you're a preacher.
This just happened. This just
That's
happened.
what preachers do.
This just happened not that long ago.
Yeah.
The season's starting. The NBA season's starting.
Yeah.
And there's no way the Lakers are not gonna win.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like they just won last year. They're on a roll. But that moment where I don't know who stole the ball from LeBron.
Yeah.
On Game 6, and you're like, no matter what happens now, no matter what happens, even if LeBron the next minute goes on and just shoots crazy, they're not gonna win. Like we're out. And for me, I think that's what it was. It was like stuff start crumbling down. And honestly, to be honest with you, it was my marriage. When my marriage went out the window, there was this. And now I gotta kind of check myself, because there was this desire, God, please, like, restore my marriage. Please, like, let her come back. I'll forgive her. Yeah. And I don't know if in the back of my head it was like, man, because if that happens, this is gonna this will redeem my ministry. It will be this would be the story that would actually propel it to the next level. Yeah. Because imagine I forgave somebody who did this and that, which is not
which
important
happens
now.
sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the story of many of them.
But I think that I wanted that so badly more than anything else because of people.
Yeah.
Right? Because once the marriage kind of went out the window, everything it was like a domino effect. Yeah. Then the church looks at you like, okay, so what are you going to preach now, right? Yeah. I mean, you were just encouraging us so much and telling us everything's going to be all right about our own life, and look at yours, right? And no matter what I try to say, this is God has a purpose for it's, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I even stopped preaching for a while because I would preach and then I was my voice would crack, bro, and I would just start crying in the pulpit, right? Yeah. And it's funny because when that was over, I remember I told the church, hey, you know what? I think I gotta stop. And their answer was, look, you don't have, just stop preaching. As long as you're sitting in the front row and we see you there, we're with you. And it goes back to the whole thing of all right, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go through that because this is gonna save my ministry, whatever they have told me I was born for, right? And what I didn't know was that God made me with a purpose to be able to accomplish and reach people, but He was transforming what type of people I was going to be reaching. It was not going to be the people who have it all together and they know how to have success. It was going to be the other type of people. And so I felt it took, actually, to be honest, I don't think I could pinpoint a moment where I said I had that aha. It was more like, oh snap, I'm done. Talking about the moment where you think it's over, it was that's it. And because I had a couple of moments in my house where I just felt like I don't know if I want to go back to pastoring. I was kind of sort of in a weird way embarrassed to see people. Because one part of me was I cannot talk bad about my relationship with my wife because what if I get back with her, right? What if God redeems this and I mess it up with my words? And then another part of me was man, heck no, who cares? And I think that if I could put it in a phrase, I would say that the first 2-3 years of after my divorce, of the divorce, I was a prisoner of hope. Not in a good way though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that a lot of us sometimes struggle with. With this whole idea of I'm gonna keep on pushing because I feel I'm hoping that this is gonna get better. But I think at some point, sometimes that's so bad because this is not what you want to hear. But sometimes you gotta quit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah. Well, you're quitting false reality. So that's something that I talk about with like my EP, like my role models, like my EP that I put out, like that, there's a lot there of killing a dream that is actually holding you back because you're not really living in reality. You're living in the dream.
Yeah.
And the dream is just a false hope, like you said, like that hope that's actually you're a slave to, because it's unrealistic. It's not even at that point for you. You're realizing it's probably never going to happen. And that's hurts. That's a real place. Yeah. Real place. Yeah.
Especially when you invested so much time, you know?
Yeah.
Of course.
I think Charles Barkley, one time back in the 80s or 90s, he a basketball player, he said, I ain't nobody's role model, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the sample I use on my EP, the ego. Yeah.
And it's crazy because he wouldn't have become the voice he is now if he would have focused on, let me do everything right because people are looking at me.
Yeah.
He actually, like, I just saw like his documentary on his show, and the thing that people say is, hey, you always get honesty with him. And it doesn't mean that you can't be a role model and be honest, but for him, being a role model for him, I gotta stop being me, you know? And so again, and at least for me, it was like, and you guys are not gonna, maybe you won't believe this, but up till the day that I got divorced, and my church was like, mentally we're new school, visually we were old school. So even Pastor Noemi came to preach at my church, and I told her, hey, I got some people here that they won't stand a woman with pants. Can you wear skirts? And she later told me that I was the last church she said yes to when they put that as a requirement. She's like, you know, because, and it was right. If she would have said no, it would have forced my growth, right?
Yeah.
I'm so happy she went, and I still remember the sermon she preached. But it was like when my divorce happened and everything was stripped away from me. It was almost like God said, okay, now that you got rid of all the stuff that I didn't give to you, that church gave to you, your parents gave to you, your friends gave to you, you gave to you. Now that it's like that there's nothing on the table, let me start putting things on the table. And that's where I felt like God started like reshaping my theology. He started reshaping the way I pastored, the way I did church, what I cared about, what I didn't care about. I mean, I still struggle with like people pleasing. That has to do with my childhood. I still struggle with like what people think, you know. But I'm aware of it now. Like now, it could be like, oh, it's creeping up, you know, like, oh, man, you know. But it's like that space, and you're 100% right. That is not so much quitting, because quitting sounds like a bad word, right? And like, you know, we don't quit, but how much damage can we cause others and ourselves when we don't let go of something that we should let go? You know, and it's crazy, like how that hurts us, you know.
Let me tap into something that we always talk. I think you and I talked several times about this, right? And perhaps this is probably the most Christian podcast that we ever have. You know,
I can say a bad word if you want. That would make it. We could right. It could be the most Christian and most heathen one at the same time. Hey, December 24th and October 31.
So one of the things that we always talk about, right, is in the narrative of the Bible, you know, when we talk about the prophets, you know, this man that they became pioneers in some sort of way. You know, they became a voice of hope, of reimagining the future for people, you know, to call people out of injustices and so many things, right? And we see them as role models, you know, when we speak about them, right? We use them as examples. But you and I always talk about how we don't know how much distress that we're going through, how much pressure that we're going through, perhaps the press, you know, that we're going against their own will sometimes, right? The battle in their souls and their mind emotionally, the experiences they had to go through, right? And I think it's not that I'm against the motivational speaking that is happening right now, but sometimes I feel it's very superficial, right? But when we go back to the narrative of the Bible, when I see prophets and when we see people that are pioneers, they're opening the way, they're a voice of hope, they're tackling important subjects, you know, subjects that matter. They're always behind all that. There's a battle happening that sometimes we disregard, or we don't touch, or people don't know what to do when somebody comes forward.
Or they're unaware of it, because I think, like, going back to this idea of being a role model is like Charles Barkley saying that. To me, the reason why I had a desire to like reshape how people viewed that word is because to me, when someone like him says that, they're saying it because the stigma of being a role model sounds like you're better than other people. Yeah. But like what you're saying is, like, people look at a role model and say, oh, they're so much better because they don't struggle with those things. But little do people know is it's despite their struggle. It's despite the depression, the stress, the pressure. It's despite everything against them internally saying, I don't want to do this. Why are you doing this? Why are you putting everyone above yourself? And then despite all of that, they choose to do what's right, or they choose to represent, in a certain way. And sometimes
people that are successful way, right? Whatever that means, right? The people that are thriving and flourishing in some sort of way, sometimes they're not less depressed than the person that is in their home in their room, watching videos. They're perhaps the same way. They just decide and make a choice to push through it and develop some sort of disciplines or structure that help them fight through that, right? So I think that going back to what we're talking about, what was going on? What battle was going on in that process when you lost your babies, right?
Oh yeah.
I know we talked about this before, but maybe our audience can get a little bit more of it. What was going on in that process? Because I mean, you throw it out there, and I'm not saying it's just easy, but man, bro, like that's heavy,
Yeah. It was again going back to the whole didn't get taught how to fail. So I'm gonna tell you how I dealt with it. So when we lost, we had the 4 miscarriages. First were twins, so that's 5 babies. The second pregnancy, it was only 3 months. That was probably the most normal miscarriage we had. The rest were all at 7 months or 6 months pregnant. The heartbeat would stop. Wow, which is weird because there's nothing you could do to like prevent it, right? And so and obviously now when I look at where I'm at now, I think like man, like no matter how much I cried, God knew what was gonna happen, and He knew that like it would have been so much harder for me now if I would have had 4 kids dealing or 5 kids dealing with divorce, like, and then whatever it may be. And I don't think I know why God didn't intervene, or He just kind of he said, hey, let it play out, how it is. I do know how He used it though, right? Yeah. And so, but when I went through that, what happened was that. And I don't know, like maybe all guys are this, but I'm like a little bit like cheesy, and so I'm like I have sisters, and I'm really kind of feel like I'm sensitive to those kind of emotions, and when my ex-wife would talk about, or we were talking about losing the babies, I never showed what I felt because I didn't want her to feel as if I was blaming her for not being able to have the babies, because it wasn't that the little soldiers were marching. The little soldiers were marching, but there was something in her body that wasn't letting it like fulfill the purpose of the baby being born. And so I don't want to make her feel like, oh, your body's something wrong with it, especially because she would go and the doctors would say everything's fine. Right? And I would say, everything looks fine, But it was just something would happen. There was something at the end of the road that wouldn't let it complete, And so for me, it was. I just kind of sort of faked it till I made it. Like I didn't cry in front of her about that. She would cry, I would hug her, I would console. But bro, I would go to the restroom. Well, when I was at work, I used to work in HR, and I used to lock the door, but and I would just bawl and like cry about like, man, like, and especially when all my brothers and sisters started having babies. And that's why now I feel like I'm more sensitive when I know when because I have friends of mine that struggle with like getting pregnant and whatnot. Like now I'm more sensitive on Mother's Day, on Father's Day, on what that means. Because like I didn't get the space to kind of like mourn. I actually mourned years later, and this was a trip when I had this dream. And again, I don't know, it was a dream, a vision. I ate too much tacos. I don't know what the heck it was. But all I remember was that I was sleeping, and then I had this dream vision, whatever, where I saw these 5 beautiful kids. Like they were already like an 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And I remember one of the girls, she was morenita, she was like dark skin, her eyes were achinaditos, her hair was curly, beautiful, she had like between hazel and green eyes, and I remember seeing that, and oh my God, those are my kids. Wow. And like, I mean, I may go to heaven and there's nothing like that, maybe it's like una chaparrita, I don't know, but that's why I saw it, and I remember for me the encouragement was that story that says, hey, you can't in the Bible, they can't come to you, but you could go to them, right? And bro, I remember this was like 5-6 years later, I cried, bro, about like losing those babies. I cried so much. At the same time, I got that like hope of like, okay, I'll see them one day, But again, didn't have the space to do that, which I feel like now one of the biggest things for me now is bro, man, like I have an overabundance of space with you guys, and you guys have become you guys have become so close to me in that sense where like I feel like in the last couple of months I have been so vulnerable with you guys in spaces and in times that like were unexpected, and it's like feels so good, man. You know,
one thing I wanted to say was that, you know, it's interesting how, you know, and I appreciate your like vulnerability and honesty and how you you know, how those experiences, you know, I think a lot of people, especially those who wrestle with faith or maybe don't, you know, see pastors or see Christians in a certain light, like we, you know, have it all together, or that we, you know, oh, it's different when we go through problems because, you know, we have some sort of insight that they don't have. And so I think it's really important that people realize, like how you shared, like when you were, first of all, in your marriage, consoling your wife and also having your own moments of pain and grieving. But there was never this moment of you knew exactly what God was doing. There was, and even up to this day, it's like, you said, maybe God gave you that sense of relief or, you know, comfort knowing that he made a way, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have this certainty about why it happened. Yeah. And I think that's really important for people to understand, is that we go as people who say that you're a believer, like we go through life in the same exact way, not always understanding why God put us through these moments of pain and hurt and suffering. But despite all of that we still choose to believe that he is good and that he has a purpose for us.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that like one of the things, so this one time I was writing this line, and it said something like, "Together we have everything." And, but if you think about that line, "Together we have everything," the only reason why you would say that, bro, is because you're being faced with something that seems like you can't overcome
on your own.
So you have to tell yourself, "Hey, we're gonna get this through this. We got everything we need. We don't have it figured out, but you know." And like when we're talking about like in the Bible, the prophets, that the story is one of for me the best in the sense of like we don't know a lot of his downfalls is Daniel. Like Jeremiah, we know he would cry all the time, you know. And like we knew like Jonah, we also knew like the dude was you know like all his struggle. But Daniel, when we read he looks perfect until you remember he was a eunuch. And if you don't know what a eunuch is, what they do is they search it up, right? Don't click on the pictures though.
Yeah, don't click on the pictures.
But you become a eunuch not in a good way.
Yeah.
And so just that, like Daniel doesn't talk about his bad side. The only one he doesn't mention like his struggles. All you see is like him surviving the lions, him standing up to the king.
It's the Instagram version of Daniel. You only see the good things.
But who was he? Oh, he was a eunuch. Oh, snap.
That means
like, do I need to tell you more? Like, do I need to tell you how much he felt like he saw a bunch of kids running with their parents and he knew he was never gonna have that? Yeah. Do you know what it felt like where sometimes he would wake up at night and he would like his body would react a certain way and there was something there that was gone, that was not supposed to be gone. You know, like all those stuff.
By the way, he was castrated. If you guys don't know what that means. Yes, pretty much. Yes.
Yeah. You know, and so like and yeah, man, like and it's crazy, you know, like how we sometimes overlook someone's struggle, you know? Like even I love Tupac, bro.
Yeah.
And like his best songs are after somebody tried to shoot him, after he came out of jail, after his mom almost overdosed, you know, all these other like all these negative stuff. But I just saw a DJ Quick's documentary, Unsung, and I was just, man, like tragedy after tragedy. I'm like, how come I never knew this? And it's like, oh, because you don't want to know it.
You don't want to. It's true.
Seen all the abuse out that man. He ain't my father, but they always come in twos. How I used to laugh at all the jokes he used to make, but lately I've been feeling numb by all the jerks used to date. I'm in my room, lock my door, and put my music on 10, praying to God to help me, Lord, hoping that man don't come in. Wow.